Good morning. Blessings to you all watching OTV. Diversity in Unity is the show you're watching right now. My name is Ed.2 Priscilla, and I'm with my beautiful sister, Percy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jenny?
I'm doing fine.
You look good today.
Thank you. You
Like
look
you
good
always
too.
look good.
Oh, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
A lovely one. Thank you. So I
Yeah.
hope the people who are following OTV right now are enjoying this show as we already start, because it's always another episode of great things, of great impacts. We hear from different people, we hear from ourselves, we hear from our guests. And today, Pasi, we're having another best show.
The bestest, if I can say so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
an extra best show today because we are so excited to announce that we are having a new guest. And I know, like we promised people, we'll be talking about different topics. We are ambassadors of influence to you who is watching. If you are youth, if you are an adult, trust me, this is for you. You should not go away. You should keep staying, and you should watch every episode because we talk about different topics, right?
Of course, they should keep being with us because that is what we thrive for.
Yeah,
You know.
we are here to serve you. We are here to give you the best, to influence you towards preparing for your best future and present. Yeah, so today we have another topic, and it's going to also reflect to the personal character, to the person's mind. But the last time we had an episode of depression, I heard a lot of comments from you people. That was really amazing. People were saying, like, you really are talking about me.
Like it shows that it was a topic that was really needed out
Yeah.
there in the audience. They needed to hear about it more.
Yeah, especially that depression has been trending nowadays, and we wanted you youth to know what is going on with depression. Are you also having depression? How can you know that depression is about to attack you so that you start taking care of yourself? Of course, like we talked about different ways, but we also mentioned that we are going to have an expert for that topic. Yeah, so today we have another one, and it is named,
A touch of poetry.
yes, A Touch of Poetry. Let's not now go on how we think or how we see things just in a normal way, but let's just try to be artistic today in a way of poetry, in a poetic way. We have poetry, of course, even in the Bible. Yes, we have a lot of poems in the Bible. We have a lot of poetic statements in the Bible, if we start by there. But we also have poetry normally in the society.
Jenny, I feel like part of the Bible is written in a poetic way.
Yeah, like I should say this from one site that is called Bible Study Tools Plus. It says that between 1/3 and 1/2 of the Old Testament is written in a poetry. Can you believe that? And some of these poetry are powerfully having the ability to communicate an emotional message, which is amazing. Poetry is everywhere. Poetry is in the Bible. Poetry is in the society. I hope that you who is watching right now, you maybe know a friend of yours who is a poet or who does poetry in different ways. But we hope that you learn something from poetry, which is why we're here today.
Yeah, and Jenny, also about poetry in our daily life, normal life,
Yes.
as well as people, youth, or adults. And I have read on online that on this site that is called When You Write site.
It's a
That's-
poetic site.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, by the names of it, you get to understand that is.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. They said that poetry has a way of touching our souls and speaking to our deepest emotions, but its impact goes far beyond before individual.
Yes, that is what I like about poetry. You know that I also do poetry, but
I know.
let's forget that.
Well,
But
I suggest that in part 2 you'll be the guest.
oh,
And,
maybe we'll see that.
doing some.
But this is
Okay.
something I like about poetry. It goes extra beyond touching the person's heart deeply. Like where you can just say, let's just say, a simple statement does not just touch the heart, but a statement made poetic in a poetic way can really touch deeply a heart of a person. So imagine if it's a long poet talking about somebody or talking about the experience that someone has ever had.
And Jenny, I feel like Africans were really, really wise because
Yes.
in the past we get to see that poetry is a big part of our
It's a big part
culture,
of our
of
culture.
their
It's
daily life, the
yeah.
ancient people
Mm.
in Africa. Well, I don't know much about Europe and
They
other
also do
continents.
poetry very well, very deeply. They also have good poets. You know, poetry is everywhere, and every culture they have their own way of talking to people or touching the hearts of people. We can say that maybe in Rwanda we have our own way. We have different even poets who do Rwandan cultural poetry.
Yes.
But we also have people who do it in other countries, and depending on the culture, they all do it in their own way. But it still touches the person's heart deeply.
Which shows that it is an ancient thing, but also a thing from nowadays. So, yeah, I feel like if we get to talk about more about this,
Yes,
people are going to find themselves interested in
it's
poetry,
very
which is
interesting.
something great because it has always been there
Yeah,
and
something that
has
has always
stuck
been
to
there,
this.
something that is still there, something that is never going to change, that is always going to be touching the heart of a person. Because maybe let's just say we are not that much experienced in poetry, but we have a
Well,
guest.
me, how about you? That would be me.
Oh, me, I do have some experience, and I
Uh,
have seen how poetry has really impacted people's hearts, even myself. Maybe that's how I started.
You guys, I tell you, Jenny is not ordinary. She's extraordinary
Thank you.
when it comes about poetry. So
Oh wow! Shout outs to
yeah,
every poet,
they are in good hands. So
to every poet who's watching this show, Diversity.
of
So we
course,
are talking about the touch of poetry. How does poetry touch someone's heart? How does poetry change a person? Because we hear that people use poetry in a way of impacting the lives of people, in a way of trying to change what's not going well in the society, trying to heal people. Does this really work? Does poetry really touch the hearts of you people? Please leave your comments and tell us how it touches you and how it changes you. But we are just going to take a short break and invite in someone who's really experienced, who has been through this for a long while. That is our guest of today, Pasi. Are you excited?
super excited.
Yeah, me
you know,
too. I'm excited, and I hope you guys are going to stay with us. We're just going to take a short break. We come back with our guest. back. Welcome back. Diversity in Unity, the show you watch every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. As you watching, we have been saying that we are in the topic named the touch of poetry. The touch of poetry that we've been discussing a lot about it, where we are going to bring in our guest who is going to introduce himself with his way of poetry, his artistic way. Welcome, welcome, most welcome, Fred Furazimba.
Thank you.
Yes.
As you see me, I'm a black. I am a man. I'm an African. I feel as a man, I feel as black, but sometimes I don't understand what it means to be an African. Sometimes in places like schools or things treated like, yes, we're an African, but not representative of Africa. So then I ask myself, am I in Africa or not? More than being an African, I'm poor African. And they say here that I know crisis because everybody's working class. So let's say here we have achieved some differentiations of certain skills. There are Africans who have a cars and the houses, and there are Africans in that kind of house. So I guess you understand what I'm saying. Among of those Africans in that kind of house, so I wake up every morning wondering if I'm going to sleep in the same bed that night in the place I'm living right now, where they find me with different things, bad wars, poverty, HIV, wars, drugs. But I dare to dream these uncommon times when world could youth and nations fight for vanity. In this contagious time when love divide and the hate spy insanity and infected all around, million loved ones underground are still rising and we search clues in the vein to look for someone else to blame. But hold on and dream big, whatever they say here in Africa we dream, but our dreams are just like a little bird dropped from a high tree to die because they got no pre-cara feeders on their wings to feed them to fly. But dream and dream big.
Wow.
Thanks.
That's super amazing. You dream and you dream big. That's amazing.
I was already captivated, you know. I was about to.
There was a
enjoying.
self-reflection from that.
Yeah,
Welcome.
of course. Thank you very much.
How are you
for-
doing?
I'm good, quite fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
You see,
How are you
you're
guys?
young and fit.
We are good, thank you.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. So, Pasi will start with some TikTok question.
okay.
Are you ready for some TikTok question?
Let me see.
Well, they are just TikTok. You
Okay.
don't have to.
Don't panic. It's
Yeah.
just simple.
Okay.
Yeah, TikTokers, of course.
So that we get to know more about you.
Especially in your poetic journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I'm ready for that.
So my first TikTok question is what inspired you to do poetry? What was the inspiration, or how did you come up with your journey?
You know, I'm an artist, and everything goes with art is passion to me. So I didn't have much skills or knowledge on speaking, like public speaking and such. But I found poetry as a tool to transmit my inner emotions, to share human values within me, and also as a tool to be able to speak what I feel as an artist. So what inspired me is the poetry itself.
Wow.
Well, that is very,
Just the
very
fact
well.
that you can express your emotions and what you want to tell people.
Sure.
That's a great thing. Well, for me, as I know him, he's someone who does not talk much, but through poetry, trust me, he
I
will
talk
tell
a
you the
lot.
whole story. So another
that's
TikTok
it.
question. My question is, what's the best or the worst thing someone has ever said about your poems?
The best is they say occasionally I'm able to speak for themselves, for them,
Oh,
and
wow.
I likely speak for myself, and occasionally I speak for other people. That's the best thing I had for my poems. The worst is
Haters.
actually is when someone is trying to give you words to say in another way, because art is all about freedom. And poetry have to be private, so I don't like when
Yes.
someone say you have to say this, not that.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I
It should
can-
flow as it comes.
yeah, as it comes, not something you have been told to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. because arts is something that is, it depends on inspiration you have in that morning or
Yes.
in that night when you are writing.
That's
So
the
it's
beauty of
not
it.
something that anyone can collect. You say like you can um, give this message instead of giving that, because you give what you feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like now that I understand about that, and I
Are
want to
you
tell
ready to be
people,
a poet?
oh my god,
Please, you should start telling us your stories through. Yeah.
stop there, stop there.
Okay.
I was just going to say that once you come up, you go up to an artist, to a poet, and you feel like tell him you should say this. If you feel like saying that, I suggest that you just do your own poet.
Yeah.
If you feel like what he's saying is not touching you, is not captivating or healing you, uh, some of us we are getting healed. So if you are not,
Like he's going to share as many. Maybe if you don't get inspired or touched by one of the poem, you will hear another one. He has a lot of poetries. Oh my God, he has numerous. If we say about them, we won't finish. But through the profile, we have mentioned that he does poetry. He has a lot of poems. He also writes books. So it's a great thing. We have a great guest today for this topic, the touch of poetry. So we head straight to the questions of today, the touch of poetry with you, Pasi.
yeah. So one of the questions that I have today it is going to be uh, deep, if I can say. I hope you're ready.
All right then.
Yeah, so my question says that how can you explain the role of poetry in social change? Do you ever receive any comments or testimony from your audience about how your poems touched their heart or changed their lives?
Yes, the lot of poetry in social change is big. As you know, in Rwanda, after the genocide against Tutsi in 1994, art is itself, including poetry, have been used to heal in society healing, because
Yes.
most of the people were really broken, and they needed some people who can be able to transmit their feelings into
Yes.
fitting words.
Mm.
So I think poetry have been a good tool. Since then, we have amazing poets, and in our culture itself, we have more poetic ceremonies. We also in our own weddings. Some we have poets
Yes.
in there. Sometimes people don't understand what they're saying, because the way
It's
poetry in
it's
Rwanda is so
it's very
tricky
hard. Those
and
terms
hard.
are very hard to
Yeah.
understand, but you
But
get
poetry,
something.
yeah, by poetry have been able to contribute to that, and to be able to explain what happened in Rwanda, because I have written a book titled "Rwanda is a Poetry," because as for me to understand what happened in Rwanda was very hard as a young person who born after all the incidents. So I was like, poetry, arts in general can be able to give me, I say, knowledge on what really happened. So poetry has a big role in uniting people, in healing. There is a poetry healing project that is taking place in Rwanda. So I think by referring to Rwanda, poetry have contributed a lot. The compliment I have received on the personal change, what I can say is, I have written many poems, but I
Yes.
don't sometimes quote people who tell me person. I quote people who publicly speak
Yes.
about it, but I have received more compliments from big organizations, from United Nations, from European Unions, different events. They have invited me to rhyme my poems
Yes.
there, because the poems themselves have changed some individuals,
Yes.
young elders, also not changed. They have also contributed to their way of expressions.
Wow.
So I think for me that's a great compliment.
Yeah, and I think you
Received, yeah.
tell stories through some of your poems. Like we have My Shame, Endless Music, In Low Voice, Confession, African Dreamer. What is, if I can say, what is the something that I can say something that combines the idea of writing such poems? Because some of these poems are somehow related. Is it you sharing your stories? Is you telling people's what people go through? Is it other people's testimonies? Yeah.
It depends because I have right now I have three books, poetry, and they have a same line. Like the ones you said, they have a book I think African Dreamer,
Yes.
in Low Voice, and others
Yes.
are from
Endless
Endless.
music.
Like they are in the book titled Chad.
Oh,
Rwanda
child.
is a poetry
Your
as
book.
well, my book.
Yes.
So others are from the other book called The Broken.
Hmm.
So they have they look the same because they have a similar purpose while I was writing them. Then I have a new book where I have more poems in it as well.
Yes.
So for now I'm writing long poems, which
Yes.
is um, giving people the idea of Africa, because I stick on Africa in general,
Yes.
and also our society,
Mm.
Rwanda, and community. But I also use poetry for peace. So I write always trying to see if I can contribute on peace, on
Yes.
social change and social healing. So I think as an African, as young, as black, as human being, we have more traumatic
Yes.
events
Mm.
since colonial times. Still here, we still have more bad effects of those
Yeah.
history passed through. So I said maybe I can use poetry to give it a life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, back to the touch of poetry, our topic of today. We want to know
Yes.
now the feedback, the touch.
Yes.
This question, let me state it as this way.
Yes.
Have you ever been touched by your poems to the point of being healed? I mean, does poetry really touch a heart of someone and heal it, or give it a change, or make it transform to someone to a new character or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. I have been touched by poems. There is a poem I have called Inheritance. Inheritance. I wrote saying that I have inherited my mother's fear and my father's bitterness. And I have been able to explain myself why I have been raised the way I was raised, and how I've been able to survive with that, and I'm still here, and the way I have created my own character through arts and through other way of living. So that poem, if you read it, maybe I will share with you the
Yes.
poem. It really contributed to my own my self understanding and self loving, because sometimes we lack that thing of
Yes.
love, and we hate ourselves. We start to fight our own.
Yeah.
So, but when we are able to express ourselves and be able to spell out what we feel, we heal through that process.
And you start loving ourselves.
Yeah, of course.
Who can even love someone when you don't love yourself first? Yeah,
Oh,
that's impossible.
It can't be.
Yeah. Basi would like to add something.
Yeah, so if I heard you correctly in while you were answering the first question,
Yes.
I think I heard you saying, well, I will put it in my own words, like poetry is like a communication tool,
Yes.
really.
Yeah, in one of the pillars, because poetry, as other arts, is
Yes.
can be used in different ways. Can be used as education tool, can be used as expression tool, can be used as a preaching tool, a teaching
Yes.
tool. Um, everything can be used. Everything worldly can be used through poetry, and poetry is the way of transmitting knowledge and also human values. Human values, big thing. So I think we can yeah, see poetry in that big way.
Okay, and
Yes.
one thing, Jenny asked you if you like heal yourself or get healed in your own
Yes.
poems or be touched.
Yes.
Uh, like, has it ever people has it ever happened that a person come to you, because it happens a lot
That's
to
what I
the
wanted to hear.
come to you
Like
and say
someone
like,
else comes to you and says, "You know what? This poem you were talking about me.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
to do self-reflection. I got to feel better. Someone is telling my
Yes.
story."
Yes. Yeah, of course. I have been lucky to have more big testimonies on myself. Sometimes I don't share because they are I take it as my personal
it's
blessings.
okay, we get through with your
Yeah.
But
poems.
yeah, okay, let me quote someone. Let me quote the ambassador of Israel in Rwanda.
Yes.
Last time said, beyond being a diplomat, he really fit in my poem called "Leaving Behind a Mask."
You see, you're impacting
Yeah.
ambassadors.
And then
Ambassadors.
at that time, I received another author from UK. She's called Jenny.
Yes.
She is a good poetess as well. She came here to see me, to meet me, because she have
She
received
heard
my
her
book.
story through your.
Yeah, she read my book and she was like, okay, I need to see this person.
Wow.
Because sometimes in Africa you have a deep touch of writing. We have a lot to tell. So when we
Especially
take
with
pen
our
and write,
history
I'm
and
so glad that we have a young Chinua Achebe, and
no, not that.
because we have old writers from Africa who did a lot of great things through
Yeah,
their writing. So we have a young one, and
you
especially
have
here in
just
Rwanda, who's impacting generations.
you just spoken my thing.
Yeah.
Well, I get very excited and very happy to see people doing these kind of things, because they are considered to be things for adults, things for
Yeah.
wise people. And seeing a young person doing it, I feel so much pride and proud for the young people, So,
yeah, there are many
Sometimes
young people
people
out
like
here
to
doing
say,
good things, though.
yeah, sometimes people like to say, where did you get this? Who is your role model? I'm not going to say it's Shakespeare, but who's your role model? Who is the person who you saw doing poetry, or who you saw impacting lives of people through poetry, and then you got that thing from him or her?
There is a man called Benjamin Zephaniah.
Okay.
He's a black man. He's living in UK. He have a good poetry touch, and also he used poetry to heal the community, black
Yes.
descent in America and other parts of the world, using his books and poems. So he's one of the people who inspired me, and luckily I've been able to talk to him, and
Wow.
really amazing.
That's
is,
amazing.
how
Yeah.
nice.
And here in Rwanda, we also have amazing writers,
Yes.
not poets, but writers.
Yes.
We have a man called Tarisisi Gatwa. He's
Yeah.
a good writer, and I admire what he
Wow.
does. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I hope that everyone who's watching Diversity in Unity is now going to think about, have I ever considered poetry? If you have considered poetry, how
Yes.
has it impacted your life? If you have never went through a poetic, let's say, event, or being ever used the poetry as something that can help you, or something that can change your heart, or something that can talk about you, someone talking about you when you didn't tell him your story, please try poetry. Even the Bible uses poetic lines because it has another way of conveying the message right straight deep into your heart. So we are so glad that we have Fred Furazima as a testimony that poetry does heal, poetry does bring a social change, poetry does impact lives of people through different ways, even telling the story of a person without asking him. It's something big, like hearing someone talking about what you went through, yet you had fear of saying that thing. It's really a great thing that we are so glad we have today in this show. Yeah, so we would like to conclude, Pasi. I know she's very having a lot of questions, but keep it for another time.
Well, I have no choice, but
Yeah. So, Fred, we would
Yes.
like to conclude by wanting to hear from you. As a young person who has been into poetry more than 6 years, that's a lot. By the way, he's so young. Sometimes I think, how did you achieve all this with your age? How much do you still have to do? You're really thinking big, like you said in your poetry, which is good that you're also acting big. So, why would you tell the people who maybe have want to try touching poetry or
Yes.
want to try doing poetry to change people to, like me, I do Christian poetry and I have seen it very amazing. So what would you tell the people who are following us, some young talents out there who want to to try and speak their mind through poetry, and some other people who have never experienced anything from poetry, who have never tried hearing or listening or going somewhere where they are citing poetry?
or
What would
even
you tell?
people who are afraid to enter
Yes,
into the
into the poetry.
industry. Yeah.
Yes, yet they have a message to tell to people.
Okay. For me, for now, I can say if you want to do poetry as a profession, I think it's better to learn how to write, how to sell, and also how to, I mean, to sell your ideas. Because sometimes at the end of the day, we need to bring our ideas on the higher table so that can be dealt with. I think for me, poetry, I have used it in much where I can. So far, we have different poetry events we host. We have also platform where poets come and learn more about writing and also publishing as well.
Wow.
I think what I can say, they have to join, of course, with the love of what they are going to do, and also with loving heart. Because
Yes.
everything you want to do in life, you better learn a lot, and you create your own thing in your own way. Because your uniqueness, your way of living, can inspire others the way
Yes.
it is. So I think for me, that's what I can say. They have to join wherever there is a poetry event, and also they add some values because this is a growing industry. It's not really big here, so we have to sell it outside the country as well, so that we can be able to tell our own story. Occasionally, telling our country story, our society story, our community stories through that poems we write alone.
So, do you give them hope that poetry is going to be bigger and it's going to grow to something that people are going to keep to be enjoying very much in the
Yeah,
future?
yes, I'm seeing it coming because I remember when we were starting this, people was like, "What are you doing?" Because for me, I was performing in foreign languages, in French most of the time, and in English when it comes to Rwanda. But it's now growing. I
Yes.
see it coming. I see more poets who still doing it, and they are getting something from it. They are impacting more people, and they learn more poetry events happening every month. So I think it's growing, and we need some hands to contribute to it.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So, like concluding, for me, from what I have just heard from you and the little knowledge that I usually had about poetry, I didn't know much. And thank you for you and Jenny for having this. And well, I feel
Are you
inspired.
joining the club of poets?
Please, Jenny.
Please, you should.
Jenny, too early for that. Maybe
Okay.
after part two. But what I was going to say is to the people, to our viewers,
Yes.
our audience, I wanted to say that poetry is one of the ways that we can make like a living, a lifestyle, a lifestyle like as our friend here, Fred, it is his way of life. Not only healing from it, you can even take it serious, take it to the next level. As we are always sitting here on a Saturday, influencing people, educating people, and you
Yes.
can also get to do that through poetry. So
Yes.
I would say
And we
that
also
is.
have one of our team members who's also a poet in his hidden way. That is Eli. You will hear from him one day.
I was just going to say, just say the name. You have already said that it is a he.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are so happy that you have been here with us in this
Yeah.
show,
Thank you
and
for
we are
having
so
me.
happy that you have
So,
shared a lot from your experience and a
yes.
lot that you would want to tell the people. I hope that everyone has gained something.
Yeah.
You should consider that poetry is a good tool, and it is, of course, working, and it's going to grow bigger and bigger, even in this country, in Africa, wherever you are watching from. Please, poetry is something that really is impacting the lives of people, including yourself who's watching right now. So we hope that the people have enjoyed and learned something, because we are here, 54 African ambassadors of influence. And that influence, we hope that we are influencing you in a good way for the best future. So we are so thankful for you, Fred.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And when we have a big time, next time we can go deep into poetry and how
Yes.
it works very
Yeah,
well
and
because
get to know to get to hear from a lot
yeah,
of your poems.
yeah, and
Yeah.
how to connect to the other arts. Because for me, I do in general, I do arts, I do
Yes.
painting, I write books, and also I do poetry and other performances. So they connect and they
Yes.
can heal more people as
Yes.
well. So that's if there's young fellow who are doing it, please keep it up.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the CEO of
Infura Heritage
Infura
Award.
Heritage,
Influence
like you saw
heritage.
from his picture. So thank you so much, Fred, and thank you so much, Basi, for the great questions. It was a nice, nice show
Well,
today.
it is always wonderful to be with you and our guests and with the 54 African ambassadors of
Yes,
influence
of
and our
influence.
audience being
Yes.
influenced day to day. So thank you so much.
We appreciate for them, and we hope we are going to receive their comments just through our social media platforms. Down there, you can tell us your comments. Please let us know what you think about this topic, and please keep watching all our previous shows and stay with us every Saturday, 10 a.m. to watch every episode of Diversity in Unity. Thank you. My name is Jenny. We'll see you next time.